It started the report. Okay. All right. I make it 2:00. Welcome everybody. So any public that is watching and online or in chambers, members of the media staff, I'd like to make note, Megan Miller, General Manager of Corporate Services, the GM supporting the Organisational Excellence Committee, and welcome to the committee. And for those that are online, I will just let you know who that is. So that's myself as chair. We've got Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Wong, Councillor Gladding, and Councillor King as deputy chair. And we've also got a couple of other councillors in attendance today as well, Councillor Tucker and Bell. This meeting is being recorded and will be played on our website and YouTube. So if you are watching on YouTube, please like us, follow along, and let us know if you've got any comments. Subscribe below. So let me just say that I kept all that up. Okay, so I've got no apologies that have been received. And I'm not sure, do we need to ask for leave of absence? No, so I'm not going to do that. No resolution is required. Any declarations of conflict of interest? No. No declaration of interest. Okay, there's no matters lying on the table because this is the inaugural meeting, and no registrations to speak at public forum have been received. So I would like to have confirmation of the agenda. I will put that motion forward so that the Organisational Excellence Committee resolved that the agenda be moved without alteration. Councillor Wall.
Second.
All those in favour? Aye. All right, I would like to invite the staff to the table. So Anthony and Catherine, is it? And I think Anthony's presenting the report.
Yes.
Perfect.
Well, afternoon, councillors. This is the first opportunity that Regulatory has had to present at this committee. Obviously, it's the first committee meeting as well. The purpose of the report is to provide an overview of regulatory teams, the key functions, and one thing I'd like to get out of it is if there's areas of focus that you guys would like further information on, and we can use other meetings to sort of dig down into some more detail. Recently, we've had examples of workshops like the alcohol workshop, which went into detail. There's some bylaw work today with councillors in regards to dog control. You get updates around freedom camping from the Responsible Camping Group. So there's areas where you get deeper information, but there's possibly areas you'd like further information on, and we can use this committee as that opportunity. Certainly, the Waterways Regulatory Services is one that I'll present before summer, a deep dive into that. So today is really a high-level overview around the teams, the work that happens, and about myself as well. So a little bit of detail for me. I'm the regulatory manager. I've been at QLDC for just over 20 years. Started off at Civic Corp, and then Lakes Environmental, and then transitioned into council. Look after a wide range of regulatory functions, and we do everything as we sort of outlined in the report: dog control, parking, freedom camping, monitoring, enforcement, Waterway Regulatory Services, request for service, and prosecutions, to name the sort of the key ones, and environmental health as well. Within reason, we can take the report as read if you're comfortable with that, but I do want to point out one of the Word document that I sent through, which is an attachment. Some of the key bits of information haven't populated in the PDF that you have received, so after this meeting I'll get it recirculated with all the information and all the details. Just a couple of wee stats around dog control, a couple of other little bits and pieces, but you may find those things interesting. Would you like me to run through the attachment at high level, or do you just want to go into questions?
I think we can take it as read. I think that I'm hoping everyone will read it. So I think if you're happy with that, we can jump. Okay, perfect. We thank you for that, Anthony, and we can jump into questions. Matt?
Yeah, just related to food and the good to see the audit coming down in terms of the overdue audits. What's your comfort level in terms of bringing that down even further? Are you restricted by resources, staff? Because I think that was one of the big issues, wasn't it?
Yeah, effectively staffing, there's sort of two parts to the staffing that we did have. One, we were struggling for a few years to actually get qualified staff that could meet the performance standards required to be able to do the function. We were lucky over the last couple of years to be able to go out to market and get those resources. So we have had technically a fully staffed team. Once you've got a fully staffed team, you're then able to understand, do we need more resource to actually bring that down further? And the decision was made that yes, we need more resource. So we have literally in the last few days just started going out to market for another EHO and some further support from the regulatory support team, not only to support the environmental health officers, but the pressure that's on that team in general. Mainly that team's been under a lot of the support team. They process a lot of waivers and back-end support for the specialists. And the more specialists you got, the more support staff you need. So we've gone out to market for support staff member as well. But in the confidence level, we're looking really good. We have been bringing those stats down, but it has flattened a wee bit. I touched on that within the report. And that flatlining means that you're holding performance, but you're at risk of it dropping back if we lost someone or any sort of issues arising. There has been a number of enforcement cases, which has sort of affected the amount the team can audit, but those prosecution and enforcement cases will be coming to an end this year, which will give a bit more resource as well back into the auditing. So the dual approach of getting resource back internally from the stuff we've got and additional resource will help us get right back to where we want to be.
Is it realistic to have no overdue audits? Is that the goal? Is that what you're trying to get to?
There will always be a small number. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a risk if you've got some overdue audits, particularly if you take the risk-based approach, which we do. So we focus on new premise that have had a compliance history. It's just how far behind you want to get before you start raising those risk levels. So there's an anticipation that there'll always be some overdue.
And maybe talk about MPI. They're very happy with their processes and the way that we undertake our audits.
So there is a wee bit of a mismatch between the KPI which we currently have with council, which I report upon, and MPI's KPI. So MPI, they audit the councils and they use a 3-month time frame. We use it within the month that it comes due time frame. So our time frame is a lot tougher to meet than MPI's. So when they do our audit and go, how are you performing, particularly in a national context, they say that we're gold standard.
Yeah. We're looking to change that measure to align with the MPI measure and the other 3 months.
Okay. Nikki, I think needs. Thank you.
Yeah, just I guess I'll just talk about maybe what comes next time. What I'd be interested in. Probably some sort of table for each of the areas that looks at, you know, key risks. Once upon a time in health, it would have been staffing, for example, and some commentary, and then tracking against KPIs. Just something sort of at a glance, so you could look at each area in the regulatory space and see where to focus our attention. And probably more generally, just some sort of assessment against the enforcement strategy and prosecution policy. So that's a very specific, useful policy, which is about encouraging self-compliance and has a number of sort of objectives. It would be nice to see some sort of commentary against the objectives, how we're going in terms of tracking consistency and enforcement, you know, how many, maybe even also how many prosecutions we have in the mix, just to track some of the trends and whether achieving that policy. What triggered that was the activities in public places bylaw. One of the things in the policy is around making sure our bylaws are really easy to follow, so that we can ensure that it is easy to self-comply and that we don't have to go down the enforcement route. That's our strategy. So I think we need to always have a focus on the policy and the strategy and making sure that the decisions that we're making in our bylaws are aligning with that. Yeah.
Okay. Can I'm not. Did you understand all of that, or would you like maybe Nikki, if you could circulate that via email?
I think I've got a good understanding.
Oh, you did? Okay, perfect. That's all right then.
That'll be.
Okay, I've got it. Okay.
I'll do it under. Obviously, a lot of different areas here, but I'll make sure there's some commentary on each area around some key measures we're doing to meet
Yeah, I think there's the different areas that we've got that you've listed that we work in, which could have some reporting around risks and KPIs, and just a comment if there's anything that you think we need to know, just look the stuff up that you think we need to know. But then there's just that general compliance with the policy, like is the policy working? Are staff members making sure that their work aligns with the objectives of the policy? That would be commentary around that. Thank you.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
I guess following on from that, like the trends. So, and that quite a lot of the other papers had quite nice trending kind of, like you say, tables. So, because it's interesting when you say, for example, the request for service in general overall was 8,000, but what was it last year? And then are there things that we need to be concerned about? And another thing would be like customer feedback from, because a lot of these are customer service things, the regulatory ones. So that would be quite interesting to see if you get that.
I certainly understand that. We've got to be careful. I'm just giving you a warning that this paper doesn't grow beyond capacity. Like, for example, waterways is typically a 2-hour workshop on its own.
Yeah.
Alcohol workshop went on a lot. I can give some brief commentary on certain trends. Clearly, a lot of stats that I'm looking at all the time, but we could go a lot more in depth if we pick particular topics for each meeting. But I'm happy to do it broad or how far.
Yeah, perhaps you do the broad, and then if you're like, oh, we find this interesting, we go into that more.
This is
at another workshop.
But and I can certainly try and keep it within QE, but there's a lot of stats in the background on all of these.
Yeah.
And the customer feedback piece would be interesting because obviously this is stuff that's compliance and they're not going to be necessarily positive feedback.
That's true.
Like an example, I guess I'm trying to point towards, you might want next meeting to be focused around RFPs, and we can go into a deep dive around the trends, the feedback, how we link in with the enforcement strategy, the whole 9 yards on RFPs. If you wanted to animal, it depends. But also, how long do you want to spend on regulatory as a topic at this committee as well?
That's quite interesting.
Thank you. So, thanks, Sam. There's a few sad cases in here of complaints about under the animal control cases, and we had a really good workshop this morning on the dog control bylaw review. So it looks like maybe 5 cases here. One stat that we were given this morning, it was on a graph, so you can see how it changed over the last 10 years or so, was the number of registrations. There's this number of cases in the reporting period here. Is that standard? Is it lower? Is it higher than normal? How's that trending?
Animal control, it does fluctuate, and we do tend to see trends over a long period of time of 2 or 3 cases getting into a prosecution level at a time, and then it does tend to get back to better compliance.
Right.
It's hard to determine whether that is due to the deterrence of the prosecutions having a direct effect, or whether it's just unlucky that you have 2 or 3 at a time. There's the difference between a dog rushing and then actually attacking such a fine line that once it attacks, it likely results in a serious investigation and potential for prosecution. But we do see it fluctuate up and down over time, but it is pretty consistent over a long period.
Thank you.
Again, animal control, we do every year annually a 10A report, which is under section 10A of the Dog Control Act. We go into the deep dive of all the statistics and the proactive work we do and what measures we're going to take based on the statistics for the year. And we present that, I think it used to be the community committee, but possibly this is a more appropriate committee for that report to come to. And again, it's kind of picking which topic we go on.
What time of year do you have that?
It's usually tied in quite close to the financial year. There's quite a light gap that we do have to do it.
Meeting after June.
I'll look at the best time and check that it's appropriate. This is the right committee for the 10A report to come to. We don't have to bring it to a council, but if appropriate, we always have taken it to council to let you know what's happening, see what's happening in the community with dogs.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. I just had a comment slash, well, question actually around the request for service function for all regulatory. Am I correct to say that we've had 6,000 in the first 2 months compared to 8,000 in the last year, or is that a financial year?
That is financial year,
Yeah, okay, so
but we are tracking to exceed the financial year.
yeah, it's still
preview.
got a bit, just not quite as much as when I thought it was maybe only 2 months that we'd been exceeding 6,000.
But just for context, for one regulatory team, it's an incredible
mm.
amount. It's the vast majority, or proportionally for the size of the team, the organisation.
100%, I was quite amazed at how high those figures were. And in terms of those RFSs, do you know how many are coming through Snap Sold Send versus, like, is this a Snap Sold Send, so it makes it so much easier for people to report, so you're getting more, or there's more to report?
Statistically, Snap Send Solve didn't have an impact on the reporting. It has been growing, but in general, it's always been really high. It grows with population.
Yeah.
So it's not that there's a drastic increase, but there can be seasonal trends, as you can imagine, freedom camping, but there can be yearly trends based upon different things as well. So freedom camping, the share was down compared to prior to COVID. During COVID, freedom camping was super low, but we're getting it across after our services. There's a lot happening at night time in the RFS space that people don't see.
Yeah.
You've got noise control services, animal control services, all after our functions. So we're 24/7 service, but a huge number of these are daytime as well.
Okay.
Like a higher proportion is daytime versus nighttime. But I think a deep dive into questions around RFS, you guys would really enjoy seeing the background of it. So it goes into significant detail over at least around a 10-year period. We can go back to go right into that level of detail.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting and helpful, because it really helps illustrate how much goes on.
Well, one real key one for us, which takes a huge amount of effort for the team, is complaints in the enforcement department. So they do monitoring, enforcement, and environmental management. And so that could be a complaint about a neighbour building a house unlawfully or something too high, through to some noise issues as well. But you're talking around 900 of those a year, and each one of those takes a significant investigation. Like they're quite complex.
Yes, yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Through you, yeah, I wanted just to clarify, this is a standing item, so is there a component that you would like to see standing as well as the deep dives? And we've got a note of that, but I did wonder if you still want to see prosecutions on a regular basis, for example.
I think that that's a good idea to keep in there. Yeah. Good.
Does some of that have to be PX'd or not?
They may be, not today.
No.
That's checked beforehand. Yes. Nikki, you had one last question?
Very quick question. The complaints, so the formal complaints policy that we've got, does that stuff sit under this general? No, perfect. That's great.
Okay.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank you. Thank you for answering all of our questions.
Just for clarity for me, RFS deeper dive
Yeah,
is a priority, and maybe give some overviews of other things that are trending through.
Yeah.
And the animal control section 10A when it's most appropriate based upon that report needing to come back.
Yeah. And thank you, because this was really interesting to go into some of this stuff and have exposure to.
That's no problem. And I'll organise an updated one to be circulated, just with little bits and pieces added in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So we've got to note the content of this report. Do they have to stay? Yes. Okay, all right. Sorry, not dismissed you. I think you want to move it?
I can move it.
Okay, next. So Nikki's going to move that the Organisational Excellence Committee note the contents of this report. Have I got a seconder? Okay, Councillor King. All those in favour? Thank you. Apparently dismissed now. Next, we have the Health, Safety and Wellbeing Report, and the report author is Alan Thomas. And we've got Katie and John.
Donna is the chair of our Health and Safety Committee.
Perfect. Right, over to you.
Laura, I know both of you already, so I am Katie Church, the People and Capability Director, and we've got Alan here, Health and Safety Manager. And you already know, John, I believe, from the democracy and governance. So, as Megan mentioned, John is the Health and Safety Chair. Thank you.
So perhaps I'll start off just by highlighting 3 points and just a little bit back by way of introduction. So the Health and Safety Chair, I voted last year. I've been a Health and Safety rep since 2023 when I started, and then for my sins, I was voted to be the chair last year. So that is why I'm doing that particular position. You may also know me as the Democracy Services Manager, the provider of biscuits and lunch forms of keeping the sustenance over these long sessions. So just to highlight 3 aspects of the report. One aspect is that this report is typically a quarterly report, but due to the election last year, no material on this has been brought forward. There hasn't been a meeting to bring it to 6 months. So this does in fact cover a longer period than normal. So the reporting period is 6 months, but to clarify moving forward, this will be a quarterly report to this committee. Secondly, I'd like to highlight that there was 1 lost time injury over the course of the reporting period. As a result of this, the lost time injury frequency rate and the total recordable frequency rate have both dropped to 5.3, which is well within the KPI of 9 all of that. And finally, I'd like to highlight the excellent engagement with the variety of the wellbeing activities that took place over the reporting period of that 6 months of September through February. In particular, there was really great turnout for the Blue Zone Challenge, as well as a series of webinars and events associated with Mental Health Awareness Week that took place at the end of 2025. The activities associated with Mental Health Awareness Week, we had 147 participants. Just to give you an idea, that was 650 staff, so very good participation. So I'll just leave it at that.
Any questions? I'll start with Nikki this time.
The contract workplace incidents. So significantly, and there is an explanation that I don't entirely understand around the contract reporting date criteria and why that explains away the massive leap. So first question is, can you help me with that? Through the chair, absolutely. So there's a couple of components to that. It is seasonal, so there's often a bit of a peak with reporting when it comes through in January, just because contracted work sites obviously close towards the end of December, they're not as active, and then they start to ramp up in that January time. And then also we've got a hard lock on our date criteria in the report just for robustness and compliance. So that's why we have the slight increase there.
The other thing is that where the KPIs land with the reporting for the contract to contracts, we don't actually. So, for instance, if you were sending us a report from January, we won't get it until February. So those will then end up like February or March into the system.
Right, so you've got some of December's and January's landing in February, which is why we're looking at 53 rather than 22.
Yeah.
Correct.
And as Katie said, the system, when you enter into My Safety, auto-populates times and dates, and it's all hard-coded. Yeah. So it only understands when you actually put it in.
Okay, so we should expect like that to happen.
Yes,
in the next.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. And just to clarify, Ellen, if there was a notifiable event, you would get that.
I get notified from lost time injury, serious occurrence, notifiable event.
There are notifiable ones, and there are quite serious ones.
Well, actually, one of the notifiable events is not actually strictly a notifiable event. One of the other one, degloving, is because degloving is notifiable, but breaking your fingers is not a notifiable event. But the contractor did that just out of an overabundance of caution. And I must say that all the notifiable events worksite chose to just close the report straight away.
Okay. It still seems like a lot, and I just guess I've got a general question around our procurement processes and our contracts and how we're using those to drive some of this stuff down. I guess in order to protect our chief executive, Can you explain how
So the-
you're working
so-
with our?
In most of these cases, in fact, in one case,
Yeah.
everything was followed to the letter, including the owner of the asset not being able to locate and directing the what we call a standover. So they're saying dig there, dig there, dig there, and it still hit the because they had no idea it was there. It's good reporting. We still consider it a serious occurrence because we've hit or the contractors hit something. So when we bring a contractor on board, they go through a pre-qualification system. So a third party checks out all their health and safety systems, all this sort of thing. We also have a process that we have called the Health and Safety Contractor Management System, which is aligned with WorkSafe's 6-stage process. So as we're bringing contractors on board and things like that, we have checklists for triple SPs, checklists for task analysis. We've got a whole guideline training around this.
Do we, sorry to cut you off. Do we have disincentives? Do we have,
Health and safety is not.
it doesn't go there.
We don't oversee the contracts, if you will. So that would have to be with the the contract managers, that type of thing. So we don't get involved with that.
Right.
We just
So something to take offline maybe and
Yeah. The other thing is, on some of these serious occurrences, if you read them, they actually have procedures in place and they have actually started the day doing the right thing and then got complacent. Because quite a few of these were at the back end of last year.
Yeah.
And even though we go to our project managers, out to the contractors saying, please don't rush, please don't cut corners because you're putting at risk everything. If somebody gets seriously injured, we're going to be here for a long time, sort of thing. We do have people on the ground that, like the mowing incident, he felt like he had to get the job done, so he took the risk of using the mower rather than getting off the mower and getting the weed eater.
And I just wonder if there were things that could be done within those contracts that really disincentivize that sort of behaviour, so that the boss is right on top of it. And I'd wonder if there's the ability at some point to have the old contract manager come in and sort of explain how they deal with it.
Well, I do actually talk with the my oppos in the contractor that we use and things like that, and discuss our expectations. And as I say, their expectations are the same as ours, that they shouldn't be doing this until they're fully sure where that cable or utility service is. But
if I may,
sometimes it just gets out of hand.
If I may, I think Catherine's here. I think I do understand exactly where you're heading with that, Nikki, and perhaps next meeting we could invite on the back of the health and safety report, or we can include in the health and safety report just some of the practices that we see through the procurement of contractors that are specific to health and safety.
Procurement and contract provisions, just to understand where the disincentives and so on all.
So we can, I'm sure that Catherine would be happy to get Pamela to have a look at that and add to this paper, and then Pamela could perhaps come along and answer some of those questions.
Okay, thanks.
Well, thank you. I'm just wondering, is it really clearly defined where QLDC is the PCBU and where the contract is the PCBU? So
Yes.
Is there any grey area?
No.
Right. Okay. But
We perfectly understand.
before the contract starts.
Yeah, it's included all. We have sections for consultation, cooperation, coordination. So there is, and also WorkSafe. They're actually developing more guidelines around what PCB is responsible for what. But I've worked in areas of very high risk with multiple contractors, and being the lead contractor, sort of coordinating everything. So I basically fall back to what would I do at a refinery?
Yeah. So that's something that has worked out between QLDC and the contractor.
Yeah.
Because when WorkSafe gets involved and actually starts investigating, they tend to go, well, actually, we're going to use everybody's PCB.
There has been guidance out for a long time now, which we refer to, and every contractor that we use, because we pre-qualify the contractors, so we need to see them demonstrate or have the systems in place that have this, the appropriate processes and procedures for this type of thing, from the design stage right through to the build, deconstruction, that type of thing. So it isn't anything really new to the people we're dealing with anyway.
Through the chair, just to add to that, just endorse Alan saying we have an extremely robust health and safety contractor management system at QLDC.
Thank you. Any other questions? Then I will, we have got a recommendation in front of us that the Organisational Excellence Committee, one, note the contents of this report. Nikki will move it, and I will second it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next item 3 is the business process program. So we have got Ian, Zoe, and Sarah. Is that correct?
Zoe and Sarah.
Come up and talk, but it's good to meet people that we don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to introduce the team?
I will. So I'd like to introduce the team. So I think you all know me, but probably as the person that turned up to annual planning meetings and send out emails. We also don't deliver any biscuits in this team. But just to explain who we've got here. So Sarah Wyeth on my left. Sarah runs the Organisational Project Management Office. So OPMO, as we call it. The OPMO is all about uplifting the organisation's capabilities around capital project delivery. So the frameworks everywhere from financial management, risk management, governance, benefits realisation, etc. We can talk a bit more about that. So just for avoidance of doubt, we don't deliver those projects, but we are the centre of excellence in terms of uplifting that capability. And on my right, we've got Zoe Baptiste. And Zoe is responsible for our business process team, which is really around working with all of the different components of QLDC, where we may have business opportunities or business problems that are quite complex. Maybe they're traversing multiple parts of the organisation. And we bring Zoe or one of her team members in to work on that business process improvement. And that's generally being prioritised either by the chief executive or more broadly across the executive leadership team. And then I will also say we've got Dan Crosby online. So Dan used to sit in my shoes, or I'm sitting in Dan's shoes, so I've got big shoes to fill. But Dan has obviously been off for a wee while with illness, but Dan is back and Dan will be leading some of the key projects within the team. So yeah, that's the quick introduction. So in terms of the report that's in front of you today, I think maybe just we've probably covered it in terms of that introduction, but yeah, the two real components of the team here around that capital project uplift capability and around the business process improvement projects. And I've just covered off a little bit of background material there, just since it's the first time that we've really been introducing what the team does to the new committee. I've also got in there a program snapshot that's an update on the 10 live business process projects, as well as the, I think, 6 streams of work, if I remember correctly. Sarah, maybe it's more than that, that are within the OPMO space. So I thought I would probably throw open to questions. I'm happy to talk through any of those projects or those streams of work.
I think we can take it as read and then people will have specific project related questions, which will be easy. Are you happy with that?
100%.
Okay, awesome. All right, we will open it up to questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of learnings in here. The P3, M3, I was like, what the heck is that? I had to Google it. Is there a measure 1 to 5? I can't find it in the paper now, but was there a measure from 1 to 5? And we currently sit at a
No, we started off at a 1 when we were assessed in 2022,
Right.
and then the latest back in 2025 we did a bit of a lighter touch assessment, and it's rated as nearing a 2.
Right.
Treasury deem local councils 3 is good,
yes.
5 is NASA.
So what do we have to do to get? I mean, these numbers mean nothing to me, but what do we have to do to get to 3? How important is it?
Is best way to describe definable and repeatable processes, consistency on every step of project management, project program of our management.
And how far a gap is it from where we are to where?
Well, that's a good question. It's people, process, and system change that's required still. It's achievable, but a lot to get from a 2 to a 3 is around more organisational processes and systems and people capability. So what I mean by that is having a way of defining your governance that's everyone's doing it in the same way at the right time.
So is there an element of organisational culture and the human element that you look at quite closely, and is that quite hard to control though? And
look, it's interesting. I've been in this seat now, going on 4 years, and driving the P3 M3 for that period of time. We've seen some amazing changes, and there's still a long way to go, and it is a slow burn. But gee, you see people going, "Oh, this is good." So yeah, we take the wins where we can, and we just keep digging our heels in and going, "No, please."
you do a bit of power.
Yeah.
I mean, a good example is that the likes of community services, not throwing anyone under a bus, but there was a way of delivering a project that was quite a long way from, say, delivering a project in P&I. And we've wrapped some real maturity around how those projects are delivered, as Sarah says, to ensure consistency. But it is definitely a maturity journey. And we have the best champion. I took on, this is a team that came into corporate services, how long ago now? 2 years ago. And I was a bit like you. I was like, what on earth is this? I had done Prince training, but project management I'm really fascinated by. But Sarah, we're very lucky to have as an absolute expert in this space, and we have it sitting in corporate now so that it is something that can be delivered consistently across the whole of the organisation, as opposed to previously it sat within P&I. So it's been a great step forward for the organisation.
One other thing I'll add to it, we rolled out a PMM toolkit, so project management method based on Prince 2, a toolkit on our intranet site on Yoda, and within 12 months we did check some stats, and we had 111 people engaged with Yoda tools and templates 919 times over a 12-month period. So it's showing that people are going on and looking and engaging. So
I think I've been serious, had to educate me on all of this, because I started off going P3, M3, it sounds like Doctor Who, doesn't it? But yeah, I think to your question there, so much of it is about the people. So if I look at where the organisation has come from and where it is now, where it needs to get to, there's a huge amount of work that Sarah and the team have done implementing the toolkits and the frameworks and the knowledge centres and those fundamentals that we need as an organisation. There's been a huge amount of work done on technology enablement. So we use Sentient as a project management system. If you look back, and I think in 2022 we had 23, projects in Sentient. As of today, I think we've got 162, and it's growing rapidly.
That's not just a project going into a system, that's someone actively managing it through its life cycle.
And then what Sarah and the team do is work with each part of the organisation, because they are at different stages of maturity. So, but a lot of that now is around that people change. So again, just a little example, I think Sarah's team have done more than 50 one-on-one training sessions in the year today, in the financial year today, just keeping up that uplift and that adoption of capability. So
Sentient is actually a really critical part of this because once everything is within there, it can all be scrutinised and reported on. And that becomes, we've talked to you all about the one source of truth for your access to projects and being able to see where everything's at a glance. And this is the journey we're on. So it's great work.
Right, Nikki? Thank you. Yeah, a couple of questions on that. Firstly, quick request actually, that risk management maturity piece within there, you're really good to have that reported to the Risk and Assurance Committee. Effectively, I think that's what they were asking for.
Yeah, actually picked that up. Sitting in the back.
Through this, I was like,
Yeah.
goodness.
Went straight back to Sarah and said,
So,
when can we do this?
yeah, that would be great. So when I was with Catherine with this. The other thing is just looking at the governance piece, organisational governance. I don't understand the model. I'm like, Matt, I didn't Google it. I will. But how do we around this table fit into that model, if at all?
So I guess that's yet to be defined. Obviously, there's a critical piece there for you guys to be involved in that, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's at what point do things get escalated up to those levels is yet to be defined.
So the reporting and so on.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why I was asking. A lot of the times in QLDC, we talk about governance, but we're the governance.
Yes.
The rest of governance support, I guess, although there is a level of
within
project governance within.
the project.
But how do we make sure that we're involved in that process and that it doesn't stop at a layer below us?
No.
That would be really good to understand maybe at the next report how that is integrated.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are decision points, but maybe we could come up with some kind of matrix that shows, you know, when it might actually come back into the purview of governance.
Yeah, just
I'm
what
sure
our
we
role
can
is
do
in
that.
that system. And then I guess the other ones were just a yay project reporting self-service for councillors. Really looking forward to seeing how that goes. Thanks.
I can give you
Well, yeah.
a quick update.
We've got time.
Yeah, I'll give you the 30-second update. So we have completed all of the work internally around the data fields, etc., that we need to get from Sentient and actually produce the reporting that's needed. It's currently with the Sentient vendor to develop the data feed, and then that will go into a GIS layer as a presentational layer that we'll be able to then surface out.
And is there one, because I thought we talked about how much we might get versus,
Yes,
is it how deep do we get to go?
Yeah. There's an elected member lens relevant for committees, public for community board, etc., and then a public lens.
That's great. I'm really interested in seeing what comes out of it. And look, just one concern on the developer agreements one. I went back, I couldn't remember when the last Audit, Finance and Risk Committee first recommended it. And it was December 2023 that we requested that officers provide a draft development agreement and commercial investment policy with supporting guidance documents, etc., etc., etc. So, of course, when I see Amber on there, I'm a little bit concerned because it was December 23, and since then we recognised it as a risk back then. We've had problems with the development agreements in the interim, and it's still amber due to complexity of evaluating current agreements, meaning timeframes have been extended. So I guess what I'd like to see on all of these actually is who is responsible and the timeframe for delivery and how long it's been amber. And yeah, I just have another question on this: is why do we need to evaluate all the current agreements in order to develop a policy for future development?
So yeah, let me answer that. So there's probably three components to developer agreements. They're all obviously all interrelated. I'll come to policy last if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So the first two streams of work that we identified around developer agreement was making sure that we understood all of the developer agreements that we currently have, what the obligations are that are inside those developer agreements, and what's the status of those developer agreements. The developer agreements have been developed over time, and we identified that there was a risk that maybe we didn't necessarily understand what all those agreements were and what their obligations were. So that is the component where we have audited all of those developer agreements, identified all of the obligations, and now we're going through an exercise of assessing whether or not there actually is any risk that things haven't been delivered within those agreements. So think of that as stream one.
Yeah.
Stream two is all around the process of a developer agreement being from conception to maturity, if I can describe it as that, making sure that we've got the right internal collaboration, making sure that, person A is aware that person B may be dealing with this developer, etc. And then the third component, which is policy or guidelines, sitting over the top of all of that. But appreciate that has been outstanding. That's currently being worked through at the moment. We've got some draft. We've done an assessment of what other councils across the country do in the space. We're developing up sort of effectively a draft content. We're going through the process of consideration as to whether that really is best suited as a policy or guideline, for example. And what we want to do is bring that back to elected members in conjunction with the developer contributions policy. And
Timeframe, roughly?
that would be back by the August LTP.
Okay, so not too far now.
Yeah.
Just general comment that sometimes when we improve our systems and our frameworks and our everything, we take all this time and we forget or are unable to do the actual business of making sure future problems don't arise. So I it's just across the board, I think, but just keeping that in mind. But thank you. It sounds.
This is a really great example of where this team can independently, they sit independent in the corporate group, look across the organisation and really take a deep dive into these things, really complex issues. So it's a godsend and just resource, energy and big brains that we haven't had been able to.
Looking forward to seeing
how
it all goes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Did you want a question? Okay. Yes. No, you go first.
So it's also great with this team. I project managed the introduction of project management, Prince trained in accounts in the UK 23 years ago. So I can give you but it's very good to have a team. I'm looking at page 46 of the agenda, which talks about, there's been, of course, a lot of conversation about the water services PCO, the transition to it, and not the least the risk and audit committee, which I sat in on, where the independent members were quite strong on the need for a review of how water services parts of P&I are planned and managed. And I'm within what you've got here, which is great to see. All I see though is that there's been interviews of the managers involved, that's been documented, and that's being carried across eventually to the CCO. Is within that an opportunity to review, particularly the risk component, which is, from my perspective, the biggest risk, because problems keep arising. Our problems always arise in any major project, but there seems to be an inherent problem. Is there an opportunity in what you've outlined here? I see it's got a green flag against it, which is perhaps good, but is it though? Is that a 2 good or is it a 5? You know what I mean?
So this one's definitely green, but I would want to explain the scope of what obviously it's green within the scope of what this piece of work is.
Sure.
So obviously what we recognise is that there are a whole lot of processes within the organisation that in some shape or form support the delivery of 3 waters. Now, the obvious ones, obviously, are the ones that are highly dedicated towards water, for the delivery of water. And in a way, those are kind of not what we're focused on here. That's being managed through the water services delivery team. But outside of those highly water-focused roles, there are many, many roles that support water directly or indirectly. So that could be asset management staff that partly support waste and partly support water. It could be communications team that support media inquiries related to water. It's Sarah's team and it's Zoe's team that work on things related to water that, that is part of a role or part of a team. So what this piece of work has done is look across the whole organisation to identify all of the processes that sit within any team anywhere in the organisation that touch into water. So what we've done is we've identified what those processes are, obviously who the people are, what things like technology is used, etc. And importantly, which I think is to your point, we've identified what risks sit within those processes. In particular, what are the risks that the teams are perceiving that may crystallise as part of a transition of part of those roles into delivering water. And that really then feeds two other activities. One is all of that information and all of those risks have been handed over to the Water Services CCO delivery team so that they understand what's been identified. Zoe, jump in at any time, but they're working through those to make sure that they've assessed each one of those risks in the sense of, is that a risk that needs to have some form of treatment plan or mitigation identified as part of the CCO establishment?
So it is a list of risks and issues that we collected. So some of them were repeated from different teams, but others, we just collated all of that information and we passed it over to the CCO, as Ian said. But we've also had our risk team have a look through and align with our current risk register within council. So any that had come up that we currently have on our risk register have been aligned and sent over as well. So they've got that information.
And I think, John, this is more operational discovery. Processing, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to a different type of risk that you might be thinking about.
I'll think about all of them, but you're right,
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
So that feeds the CCO, and then it also feeds our own planning around what the QLDC post-water needs to look like, recognising that where we have functions that support something in the CCO and something within the remainder of the council, we have to make sure that those roles in that process delivery are, maintained.
Quite. Thank you. It's gone overnight. So on Nikki's point, a question about governance. From my experience, it's particularly at the project initiation point, that governance and the term that we think of it as probably should have some overview so that we're comfortable that those sort of risk issues are being dealt with, because we've kind of been responsible for that. So that's what I would recommend, that be quite clear so we understand where we sit. And then afterwards, it's, as I think has been described by reporting and exception. Cool. Excellent work. Thank you.
Yeah, I just had one tiny little comment. Thank you for the report. It is really useful and good to meet everybody. In terms of next time round, can we make nothing wrong with the report, just with what changes can that be highlighted? Is that okay? Yeah. Thank you. Because of the first one, and then next time it'll be, it's easier to read. It's like, okay, so what has moved on since the last time we reported? Up to you, can you do that? Okay, that's very excited to move the Organisational Excellence Committee. One, note the contents of this report. All right, both seconded. Nikki seconded. All those in favour?
Discussion.
Oh, you want to discuss?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, sorry. Okay, yeah.
No, I just think that the work that you guys do is really important, and it's something that we haven't really seen or been exposed to that much in this role. And it'll be great to get a workshop to actually really understand a little bit more about what you do. And you're fast becoming my favourite thing. No.
Wow.
There's a bit of work you guys can do. Door open, a bit of competition to us.
Matt, can you clarify what, like I said, which?
Oh, it's really just to bring the understanding from elected members up to speed on how it will work, the process.
All of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's not any
Perfect.
technical stuff. Yeah, but I guess from our perspective as well, you know, the CEO is over this. Maybe that's something we need to think about too. Yeah. API CEOs.
Yeah.
Off topic from here.
That's it.
All right. Any other discussion?
No, but I think the same. That's, right, I love this paper. It's really great. Did you,
See, the staff are all looking at you in the back, and you think that they're your favourites.
yeah.
Someone back there is my
Do you
favourite.
specifically for this, or do you do that for the CE or the snapshot, sorry?
Well, the snapshot's in the same format as the monthly and quarterly report.
Yes.
So we have the template. We've obviously just put this in, but it's also what's used to go up to ELT.
Yeah, okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will put it to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. All in favour.
You guys will take the cake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 4. Oh, Phil Nicol. A second favourite.
You can't be the favourite.
Yeah, the meeting's not finished yet, is it?
No, right.
Excellent. Kia ora koutou.
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say that we are gonna change the resolution to from endorse to note at the end, so you might have had that covered. Over to you, Bill.
No, thank you very much, Councillor. Look, kia ora koutou, everyone. Thank you once again. Same suit, but different hat today. I do meet with you frequently. Today we're providing a report in regards to the progress of QLDC's emergency management function. So I provide this in the context of being the lead for the emergency management activity area. I'm also one of 4 local controllers. Not yet. So in my capacity as local controller, myself, Catherine, Tony Avery, and Ken Bailey. So we also we lead the activation of the Emergency Operations Centre at times when response is required. So the report before you today provides an update in regards to the broader work programs that are happening across council. The report touches on 4 main areas. It looks at some of the context that's happening, particularly with regards to national reform. Right, there's some significant focus on emergency management around the country. That includes a proposed emergency management bill. Council participated in the submission on that through the Otago CDM group submission earlier this year. So the attachment of that submission is in the report as well for your reference. We also provided the report summary of the EOC development work program that we have underway. Now, this is a work program that we have developed collaboratively with Emergency Management Otago. We're delivering it collaboratively with the support across council, and it touches on 8 kind of specific areas for EOC development, including governance, training, response and recovery capability. We're looking at facilities and equipment. We're looking at alpine fault planning, looking at sector coordination and community resilience. Quite a broad work program, but there's a lot of activity already underway. Thirdly, within the report, we also talk about the upcoming exercise. So this is an annual exercise. It's a regional level 1 exercise, Whakarite Kia Rite. For your reference, that means ready, prepare to be ready. So that's a very apt title. And that will be taking place on the 20th of May. It's a regional exercise, so it will involve the activation of the group emergency coordination centre in Dunedin, as well as every TA's EOC across Otago. And finally, the report touches on some of the regional and national developments that are happening with regards to emergency management. So specifically, it talks briefly about the National Fuel Plan, which NEMA are playing a role within that. That may cascade down to group level as well. It also talks about lifelines coordination, a bit of a name check for Councillor Mitchell there. And we also talk about the Emergency Management Systems Improvement Program, which is being led by NEMA. Right? So the outputs from that may certainly have some impact on the future of how council manages its emergency management function. As noted, there's a late change to those recommendations, so we've got that covered. I'll take the report as read and open it up for any questions.
Mitch, do you want to start with questions this time?
Sure, I only have one.
That's
Good stuff. I know just much. So the exercise, in particular, given that in the coordinated to management system now is envisaged that governance actually has a role, which in the past it didn't. Now I won't be here when that exercise on, I think I'm on the road, but would it be possible for councillors who are interested to be able to see how that operates?
Yeah, through the chair, absolutely. At the moment, we're running a 2-shift operation. So part of it is about practicing that shift handover.
Yeah.
So we'll be activated from about 8:30 in the morning through about 3 p.m. at night. The scenario, without giving too much away, will involve a significant snow event, one that coats the district and the region in a bit more snow than we're used to. So there is opportunity throughout that day. And we can look at the formal, I guess, depending on the nature of the exercise that gets presented to us, declarations that may accompany it.
Want to play a role.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I do think it's probably important to note these are exercises, so most of our staff do head along to these with some fear and trepidation. Some of them are very new in their spaces, so don't come to me for excellence. That's not what it's all about. And I just want to be honest about that. It's very much an opportunity to be in a safe place, learning for a lot of people, or just refreshing themselves about what it would be like in the event that something did happen. So if you're coming to observe on that basis, then you'll be very welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, just one question. I'm at point 15 where it says about implementation costs. That's a big red herring for everybody. And we've been looking probably at that statement for a few years now. I guess what does that mean for us as a district, knowing full well we're not funding it properly? We don't have the ability to fund properly, and Central's not going to fund it either. We're talking $82.8 million over 4 years. We're going to have a shortfall here. So is it more a case of reactive once an event happens, and is that the scenario we're still playing out?
Through the chair.
Too hard a question for you?
No, that's a $1 million question. So that figure comes through from the regulatory impact statement around the emergency management bill. It is a high-level estimate. It's not quite clear exactly how they've worked that out, but that is peacetime costs. That's an investment in systems development and capability uplift. All of that's, and that's accompanied by the assurance framework. So there's a big part of the emergency management bill. Increased requirements on councils, local government, to be able to demonstrate they have the necessary capability and systems in place. So that assurance framework is just being, I think that's still working through. I haven't seen latest updates on it, but that will become an area of compliance that councils need to attend to. So that's, I think, where the funding in regards to investment in people, resources, systems may be needed to be made. How that cascades into our area, we'll have to have a look at it. I will say we've got a significant program of maturity already. Compared to some other parts of the country. And I think we're going to get an early view of what that assurance framework looks like. My understanding is Otago has put its hand up maybe as of last Friday to say that they are willing to be part of the initial implementation of that new assurance framework. So we'll get a bit of sense about what the expectations are. But I will say, candid feedback back to the committee that we're in a good position with regards to existing systems and capability and training. So I look forward to seeing what the assurance framework looks like, and then looking at what's required.
I think like anything in this space, in terms of cost, it won't be one size fits all. So you've got an event happening every 8 days in the North Island. They're hardly likely to inflict the world of pain around those councils that are already well and truly behind the 8 ball. And then there'll be different, it won't be apples with apples in terms of metros versus district councils, etc. So I mean, there's still, I think. And I suspect they'll have another good hard look at this again before they actually do anything. So watch the space.
No, agreed.
And Nikki, did you?
Yeah, I do. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm just going to make a bunch of statements, and if you want to comment on any of them at the end, feel free.
Question,
Well,
do you want to comment on any of these? And then read them.
yes, exactly. First one would be the facility, just mentioning facility, just signalling the council workshop on that before scope up a business case and go down too far down the hole would probably be sensible. I don't know where we're at on that, but the other thing I'm interested in how we're treating the potential cost of the bill before it becomes law through the independent LGP processes, and how we're looking at what's compulsory, what's sort of more optional, what are the priorities, and maybe that is something that you might be able to present through this committee. I don't know, but it would be interesting to see what our portion of the 80-something mil is, what we think it is, what's compulsory, what not, what are the priorities, so that we can, and maybe this will come through as an activity plan through the LTP
Yes.
process.
Is your list finished?
My list isn't quite finished. My other one was around, okay, so last one is just about you and the number of spots that you fill in this thing and whether you have an alternate, whether there is someone else, if something happened to you, that can fill your very important roles. Times needed.
Through the chair, I will attempt to kind of take each of those off. I'll go in reverse order. So in terms of controllers, right, we've ample capacity there. That's not talking away at the moment, but so having 4 controllers put standards out at a regional level. Many others only have 2 and 1 alternate, so that's a really important role. The work we're doing, I guess, in terms of leading it as an activity within council, so that is my part of my day job, but that's okay. Within my team, support how we resource that. We are also looking at an important activity area of council, presenter through the LTP program, like all other activity areas of council, clear and understanding of what we do, what we have plans, how we're currently doing it, and I guess where the potential resourcing and cost gap could be. I will say we achieve a lot from a pretty small area, and I do reinforce within the report the importance of understanding and acknowledging this as a core council service. So that's the pitch I'm presenting. So I think that covers off your first question as well. So we are treating this as an activity area just like anyone else. So I guess the priorities that council has will be evaluated across all those activity areas through the LPP program.
I think it's good to reinforce that the Otago Regional Council also have staff here present on the ground. You would know that, but not everybody may understand that. And so they have a team leader and a team of 3 or 4.
Yes, we got 3.5. Yeah,
3.5.
Yeah.
Who are focused on our district. So it's good.
It's just as long as we've got internal kind of succession planning, not that you're going anywhere, but you know that there are many people, but you're across.
I am a little bit.
And with the activity maps that we are producing, that I think you will be seeing soon. So I do make that breakdown between the internal and the external. And it's also important to note, look, there's internal resource dedicated to developing the activity area, but then we have 165 volunteers, all right, from council in various roles, and that's a really important part of making this work. So it's that kind of balance of voluntary as well as the daytime as well as regular emergency.
It's also worth noting, if I may, that through the terms of reference, in the event that we have an event, this will be the forum for the debrief. We'll bring it to this committee.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we have a recommendation in front of us that the Organisational Excellence Committee, 1, note the contents of this report, 2, note the participation of the QLDC Emergency Operations Centre in the upcoming exercise Whakarite Kia Reti, and 3, note the National Emergency Management reforms and their implications for QLDC. Do I have someone who would like to move it? Councillor Mitchell. And a seconder, Councillor King. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll just make an observation. Having been in Wellington last week during the declared state of emergency, running a disaster leadership course, and the Deputy Chief Executive at NEMA responsible for the insurance program came to talk to us, it wasn't very reassuring. In that there is a significant budget bid from NEMA for information management systems, given the current context, unlikely to get what they want. So but the expectation that local authorities will lift their game in that sphere is still there. So if anything, the only good shining light in there, I suppose, or glimpse of light, is that any rates capping agenda does not apply to emergency and risk management. So if we need to, it is a slight get out of jail card, but there will be expectations in future that we do even more than the team are doing here already, which is above par. It's very good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Then I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. Motion carried. All right, lucky last, the item 5, communications and engagement update. So we have got Niall and Rebecca with us today. Good to you guys.
chair our new committee. Most of you should hopefully know who I am by now. So I wear a number of hats around the organisation as Director of Democracy Services, one of which being a Democracy Services hat, one being Frontline Customer Services, and the purpose of today is Communications and Engagement. Rebecca, who you have met previously but may not remember because those are the heady, foggy days of the induction programme, leads up our engagement and communications team. So she's our engagement communications manager. So she oversees a team that looks after and sort of coordinates, facilitates, advises on all that activity for the whole organisation. And whilst that responsibility sits there with the team, I will always add that communications and engagement is an organisational challenge and an organisational accountability and responsibility. So it's all of us need to be involved in that. You'll see through the report what we've tried to surface is the team covers a lot of activity day in, day out. They cover a huge amount of channels and have a massive reach, whether that's working through sort of stakeholder mapping, coming up with communications plans, very specific engagement and consultation activities. It covers everything from the website, from our Let's Talk engagement platform, through to a voting bin at the top of the crown range. And constantly looking at new ways of trying to engage with the community, trying to give them opportunities to participate. And in particular, that is really focusing on hard to reach communities and communities who are often underrepresented or don't feel they've got an opportunity to come forwards. You'll see through the document also that we make reference to the Students Engagement Policy, which is one of our guiding documents that sort of sets out how and where we want how, sort of the principles for our engagement and communications activity. The team is also very driven by the IAP2 framework and looking at new methodologies all the time as to how we can, again, find new ways that are effective in getting people a chance to come forward. Yes, the goal really in bringing this to the committee as a report is to sort of daylight some of that, help show an understanding, or help share some of the understanding around what it is that the team does and what the organisation does, and provide an opportunity to discuss some of that and ask questions. Rebecca, was there anything you want to add?
I think, there are some things that we've surfaced here, but it's a lot broader, everything from internal comms to marketing our sport and rec facilities and programs, it's a really, really broad role. So if there are areas that you'd like to see a little bit more reporting on or, present slightly differently, then
I was looking to the Winter Road report because that's the one that knocks it out of the park. That'll be in the next report. Yeah, it's just unbelievable who looks at that every day from all over the world. They want to see what the weather's doing in Queenstown. I think it's nostalgia.
So if something isn't in the report, doesn't mean we're not doing it. Ask the question, we're always happy to bring it back into the next one. And that's fine. So with that, we'll probably take it as read and we're happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, questions? Do you want to close this up? Your pen's up first.
Great. Okay, I'll try and be really quick. So that table of communications and engagement planning is underway. What I think might be really useful is if we could have because if you've just figured out the engagement, you've probably figured out the significance level from the staff perspective. I think this would be a really cool place to daylight early what the staff believe the significance level of each project is, because it would give us an early opportunity to go, yeah, maybe not, because ultimately it's our call. So I'm sure it'll be fine, but that would be really helpful. I can probably take a couple of these offline. I'm interested in the wastewater treatment plant opportunities for next steps being scoped. I have no idea what that is because it hasn't I'm not aware that there was going to be any consultation. I don't know, it could go on for a while. So is that something that you can quickly?
So that is something that's being shaped up because I understand as part of the resolution that was sort of looking at what the engagement might be, the options going forward. The report came back in March 2027. So we're looking at what that might look like, and I understand that will come back for your awareness probably in the next couple of months because we need to move that quite quickly.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. And a couple of other questions. One just around media spend. There's been a lot of comment about this. I have no particular view, but there is a lot of spend in one spot. I can't see where Wanaka sits in there, but maybe they're looped under other publications.
Wanaka actually should be under Allied Press. So the one who's done
Right, it's just a gap there. That's right. So
seems to have disappeared.
yeah, no, there's a bit of that right through actually. There's been some formatting glitch.
They also cover off in shifts off media as well, because that's the one around.
Yeah, okay, so I guess my interest going forward is we've been using the All of Government Contract, and that's the end of coming up, and we're reviewing our media spend arrangements now. It is something that's topical. There is some merit in the idea that we have a fund that can support healthy democracy, wherever that goes, however it looks like, and there is in our procurement policy no real direction around that. It's very much geared to P&I. And I guess we will be reviewing our procurement policy and we can put some stuff in specific around media, but in the absence of that, I think it would be helpful to have a discussion with councillors around what that looks like and sort of broader goals. You know, what are we trying to achieve here? So I don't know if that's something we could do with this committee, or if it's something we could do with the full council, or if it does need to wait for the procurement policy, and I don't have a date on that.
I'm trying to work out what you're asking for there, because
So
we do appreciate that Allied Press, and we could get the stats for you. The ODT is actually, I think, now more heavily subscribed in Wanaka than it is in Queenstown, but it's certainly
It's far more general than that. It's
Yeah.
just more of a procurement principle thing, where obviously procurement's important. We're trying to achieve a range of things, not necessarily just the cheapest, or not even necessarily just, you know, reaching this block of people because they're the most, but what else?
So you're talking about engagement.
So
No, I think you're talking about procurement, aren't you?
It's
Don't
about
really think
procurement.
under a procurement policy. I think if we added in
That-
anywhere else, then
it does come under the procurement policy. And I guess at the moment we don't have, so maybe the question is, have you had any input into the review of the procurement policy, knowing that it is upcoming? Because we do need to focus not just on construction and P&I, but how we procure media as well, just so we cover all bases.
We haven't today, but happy to make.
Yeah, that'd be great. Pamela, maybe. Thanks, Mark.
I think one thing I would say is that some of these publications, we sort of, there's not a lot of choice in terms of a printed paper that is distributed under some of our legislative requirements.
Yeah, although that may be changing, is my understanding.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess
So-
that'll come into the mix.
yeah, so if it's maybe changing, we'll worry about it when it maybe does change.
Yeah, it's just a case of keeping an eye on the fact that we do need some input around this particular area of procurement, because it does go to a healthy democracy and accountability of the organisation without any, you know, view on where it should go. Genuinely.
Any other
Yeah, no, that's
Right.
done.
Mitch?
Thank you. Yeah, good report, thank you. And Paul, you're getting some reach out there, which is great. So given that there may be statutory change coming up, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the communication, we have the communication policy 2018.
No, we don't. Well, we only have an internal communications policy now. So from an external perspective, the guiding one that you're kind of connected to is the engagement policy.
Okay, so that 2018 policy is then defunct.
Yep.
Okay, so I wonder then if, even if the legislation doesn't change, I anticipate it might, which is only about, well, really about advertising, we require to advertise in print media, it might mean we can just rely on our own website and social media. Do you think it might be worthwhile then to review and look to get the most out of everything we're doing? And that change, because both of those policies are to some extent a few years old, and it's a very quickly changing environment. Do you think we should do that, and perhaps have the involvement of this committee in giving it some governance focus?
I'm sorry, I sort of lost the thread there.
A communication policy,
Right. Yeah.
rather than procurement policy, how we, as an organisation, structure what we do, what our priorities are, what our mechanisms for communication and two-way are, and putting it all in one place, given there used to be one.
What we are doing is we are going to bring components of the significance and engagement policy to this committee. And that might be where we had that broader conversation about communications.
One of the things, just to make
Thank you.
one of the things that we're looking to add to the significance of the engagement policy is a further appendices attachment that provides greater clarity around whilst we've got a part within the policy that talks to how we will engage and the principles. We're looking to provide some sort of framework that kind of steps down that level further, that kind of says, well, if we're moving into that kind of consulting, involving, empowering kind of end of the spectrum, what might that look like? And what are some of those triggers around it? So it starts to put more meat on the bones.
Thank you, particularly because we're trying some of the physical democracy and work shortly.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you.
Things all over that.
Councillor Wong?
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out how to frame this one, but I sort of see the engagement piece as marketing sits in behind engagement. So the question is, what is the appetite from council for innovation and marketing and engagement? And I think as elected members, we sit here and we go, oh, I don't feel like the engagement is great. And I don't know if that's the same shine shared with you guys in terms of how you feel about it, but I guess from where I sit, what's the appetite to innovate the engagement and how we actually do things? Otherwise, we just end up advertising on Facebook and print media, and we do the same thing every year and get the same result. So it's a broad question, but I'd love to hear sort of how you treat innovation and entrepreneurship within how you manage engagement. Right, the best of it.
Should we get Ben to answer?
It's a very good question, but it crosses over. What are we doing in the digital space? And Ben does do a lot of work on what we're doing in the social media space. Are we using the right platforms? Are we using them appropriately? Are we targeting? Is the content right for each of those? The content we put on Instagram is very different to what we put on LinkedIn. That those voices have to be very different. He's very good at sort of challenging us with different ideas and different platforms. Spend is sometimes a budget, sometimes a challenge. We have to remember that it's we are spending ratepayer money, but always very open to those. We're looking very shortly. We're going into a procurement process around our engagement platform to make sure that we've still got the best breed, that the tools are appropriate for the audience that we're working with, that we have good analytics tools in the background, because we know many of these platforms actually don't have great analytics. That means there's a whole heap of manual work that has to go on to try and get any insight that's useful out of them. So I'm very, very open to that, and we're lucky we've got the kind of the innovation within the team. On the actual marketing side, we've only got one person who's marketing within the team, and that's Dan on the sport rec side of things. He's incredibly skilled at looking at sort of search engine optimization, making sure that we're getting the best out of our newsletter platforms. And Rebecca could probably speak to more of that when I stop waffling. Looking at how we engage. Sometimes we struggle because as an organisation, we're not always quick enough. I say we, meaning the however many of us there are now in QLDC, in always thinking through, oh yeah, we need to engage, we need to answer the question. So sometimes, and this isn't personal, but please don't take it this way, sometimes by the time it comes to the team, we don't have the time or the opportunity to develop something that's super innovative. So when we do, and we get involved with things like the Wanaka structure plan and thinking about what we might do something different with the Charlotte wastewater treatment plant, but Matt Iron was a great example of how we managed to sort of follow through a thread all the way from having those kind of on-site pop-up events to be in place, to be sort of very tailored. So we're trying to step back from those kind of mass platforms as much as we can. Those sort of one-to-many monologue in a way. Through the base, which we know is not necessarily a super engaging space. When it is, it's perhaps not the engagement that we want to do. So how can we look at being more timely and targeted and tailored? So sometimes when you look at some of the numbers that are coming through in the submissions, for example, or those who are engaged, it's perhaps because when we've been doing something, it's a very unique and localized piece of engagement. So things like the Peter Fraser Park. There's no point necessarily asking Glenorchy what they think about that, or Kingston, because it's something happening locally in Wanaka. So it's about taking a very
intentional view on how we come to these things and thinking about how we can do them slightly differently. So, most of the team either has done or is going through the IAP2 certification, and it continues to be, I mentioned it earlier, it continues to be a sort of guiding framework for us. And that comes with a massive book of methodologies to sit down and go, is there something new that we could be trying here that works, doesn't work? And we don't know, what can we do? So yeah, the team is very open to innovating and trying different stuff.
But there's so much that they're doing, but I love the simplicity when you sort of think about that methodology. The most simple thing we can do is to enable our community to see themselves and what we're actually, sending out, that they can really relate to it. Because, I was just contemplating, we could put out the most important thing to this community in a post and get bugger all engagement. And then we put out, do you know who this dog is? Hundreds. And it's, so that's always going to be our challenge, right? But it's letting, and that's why we do have, dare I say it, younger staff who, really? And then I let it go because I've got a lot of trust and confidence in that, and we need to engage all demographic across our communities. Yeah, it's a challenge ongoing. The never ending story, I call it.
I had an AI question, but I'm going to
Leave it at the workshop. I've got just one quick question on the website improvements. And it could be that I just don't know what the words mean all the time. But have we got any search function improvements, or is that what Scout the Needle Stink is going to be? Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay. Yeah.
So Scout, hopefully, they going through a pretty significant learning experience at the moment. Learning all the detailed places of the website. So you'll be able to ask it basically anything, and it will surface the information for you.
It's very much so I remember Councillor Tucker presented an idea some time ago about using an AI chatbot to help navigate the website. We know navigating the website, because we do so much as an organisation, is quite challenging, as logical as we try and be. And left field, trying to think, well, how would somebody find this? It's just big, and there's a lot to do.
Oh, 100%.
Scout's main purpose is just to help people get to where they want to be.
So for those people that might not be very good at using Scout, and if the search, because the search function won't go away, right? That will still be on the website. If we could have if you didn't find your answer here, Scout type of pop up, that I think that would be helpful, because I think there'll be some people that don't know. That are age challenge maybe.
We do
technology challenge that don't know what a chatbot is, that they can use it in the same way.
Hopefully it's going to be really, really easy. But I think, I know we have a whole bunch of other navigation improvements that we're scoping up at the moment as well, but we don't have a lot we can share on it at the moment. We're not part of the track.
An upcoming meeting. All right, next
Sorry.
one.
I have a couple of questions and a comment. It was really interesting, the website top pages, and but I would like a little bit more like insight into it. Is the parking for fines? Right. Group and fitness, that's the book. Same with Alpine Network. Recycling and rubbish, is that what day is my?
Yeah, it's also things like I need to get my bin lid fixed, or I've just bought a new property, I need a new bin.
Yeah, right. I just wonder if there's if we had like the extra little bit of insight, or do we think about, is there other ways that we can inform people about those things so they don't have to go onto the website all the time, or do we think about that type of, or when they go onto the group fitness, are we like pop up, hey, are you signed up to our alert thing? Like, if there's so many people going on it, like, are there other, can we track them? Can we use that time and get them to do other things with the council? You know? like things like have you put down the annual plan submission? Then other things, the consultation and engagement piece on here, number 19. I really like the layout, but I thought potentially you could have like a section on insights or performance or something like that. You know, like what has actually worked well, why not? Yeah, because it's nice to look at, but if you don't have anything to gauge it off. In general, I found the report, it's, you know, there's like no real insights or a way for governance to then add value, you know, it's kind of like we may as well try and add some value there. So if there was some other ways that we could have some more insights and things like that, that'd be really helpful.
20 seconds, literally. Yeah, back to that table and sort of to what Nick said. So, you know, I mentioned before if we could have the significance level, but if we could also have a little bit more in the approach to engagement. So tying it back to the significance and engagement policy, going where on that level from tell to, you know, citizens assembly kind of vibe, where does it sit? And even why, like, so that we can sit there and go, have you got this right? That might add some value for the committee because we can give some feedback on it. Thank you.
Right, thank you all. So we have got a recommendation in front of us, which is the Organisational Excellence Committee. One, note the content for. So I will move it. Matt going to second it. Is there any discussion? I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. All good. All right.
Thank you.
I would like to thank everybody for their time, all of the staff, favourite teams, non-favourite teams.
None should be known.
Thank you. No, it wasn't about opening one, so no, I have to do it all in one. So I'm going to just officially close the meeting. I can't see time. It's 3:31. Oh, it's okay. All right, and there's cake in the back. It was Nicola's birthday. Now,